Lions fans, and welcome to episode 33 of Just Lying Around, a Detroit Lions podcast presented by the World of Football. I'm your host, Kyle Sutherland, and I'm joined by my co-host and brother-in-law, Adam Snow. Adam, the season has sort of started. We are on our preseason games here, but how are you feeling?
Hey, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we'll talk about the game last night, but a lot of stuff to catch up on since our last episode we did over a month ago. I mean, you've been busy. The Lions have been busy, so we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. So, on that note, on today's show, we're going to cover some Lions news, talk about the joint training camp, UFC style, and then talk about the first preseason game against the Giants. And then we'll look ahead at the next preseason game versus the Chiefs. But first, we want to thank you for checking out our podcast, whether that's on the YouTube channel or on your podcast platform of choice. You can find the World of Football and its many offerings on multiple social media platforms. Just check down in the description. And now let's get on with the news here. So real quick, Taylor Decker, if you haven't noticed, has been playing with the Lions for quite a few years before the Dan Campbell regime, back when the people we don't like to talk about, Patricia and
Bob
their
Quinn.
GM there, signed him, but he's been the tackle for a long time on the left side there, and he just now recently got a 3-year extension through 2027, worth $60 million. So yeah, sounds like the Lions offensive line is set for quite a while now.
Yeah, at least 3 more years. I mean, left tackle's a big one. I wasn't sure how much more Decker would have in him, especially after all the losing. But I think last year, I don't know if it rejuvenated him. Clearly, they've been working on this deal, he said, for like a year and a half. So kudos to them for getting something done and paying the guys they need to pay, and making everybody happy. It's been a nice change of pace being a Lions fan and watching that organization and their connection with their players.
Yep, it's gonna be because the past couple of years he's been hurt a couple games here or there, so hopefully he can stay healthy. I know we got a couple young and upcoming tackle that they drafted last year and the year before. So as far as that's concerned, I don't think the Lions are going to be hurting if one of those guys goes out for a couple games. But yeah, it's good to lock up those star players we have here.
Yeah, and left tackle, especially being a critical position, essentially guarding Goff's back or whoever our quarterback's going to be. You want to protect the blind side, and left tackle is a big position. So I'm glad they got that figured out.
Yep. So moving on here. Calvin Johnson, if you haven't heard, is going into the Pride of Lions September 30th. That's the Monday Night Football game against those Seattle Seahawks. So we all know that the Lions are probably going to wear their black jerseys that game and hopefully come out with a win. But yeah, with the drama that happened with Calvin Johnson, all that stuff, the organization and Calvin Johnson coming together, working things out, and now having him going into the Pride of Lions is pretty big deal for the Lions organization and Calvin Johnson himself. So
I think so. This is something the fans have wanted for a long time. Mend the fences, mend the bridges. Calvin's been showing up at a lot more Lions events. I think since Sheila's taken over, that's kind of changed the tide. I think between him, Rod Wood, the relationship he's had with a lot of those guys in those front office, guys and gals in the front office, it's finally trending in the right direction, and it's nice to see where they're at now, especially after the years we spent saying, what were we doing to Calvin? One of our best players. How do you treat a former player like that? So it's definitely awesome that we're at this point now.
Yeah, and the way they told him too, they were at one of his golf outing events. Disner came out, did a speech, announced it. Kind of, I guess Calvin Johnson got a little teary-eyed there, surprised. So, yep, good on the Lions organization there. So, moving on here. Speaking of Detroit Lions, Myers as well. They came to a partnership for their training facility and Lions headquarters, and they have renamed it to the Myers Performance Center. If you watched any of the um,
Post
press
game
conferences,
press conferences, yeah.
yep, you'll notice that they got a big, huge podium now. So yeah, along with that, they've also got new equipment. Stands are upgraded as well. So yeah.
And what a pleasant surprise that partnership has been. When I saw the picture of all the bleachers at the training camp area finally getting covered after years, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to get tickets to go to the thing in the last 2 years since they made tickets a thing to get to training camp. But it's awesome. I think it's great. They're finally taking care of their fans now too, showing them like, hey, we care. We're gonna do everything we can. They seem like they spared no expense. I mean, and then now Dan Campbell's got like a super podium that even as strong as I think he is, he can't tear that podium in half. That thing is a beast. That new podium he gets to stand at, it's ginormous. And of course, you pronounce it the way all or most Michiganders pronounce Meyer, and you keep adding that S on the end that doesn't exist. And that's a Michigan thing. And yeah, so if you hear somebody call it Myers, that's why. It's because we're Michiganders, and that's how we pronounce it. It's just how it is.
Yep. And also,
Even
I
when you
want to
spell
point
it
out,
without an S. Even when you spell it without an S in your script, you say it with
uh,
an S.
that's how I say it. But
That's how
also,
I
they
say it.
biggest thing also is when they do their press conference, you couldn't hear the reporters ask a question, and apparently they upgraded their sound system as well, so you can hear them when they ask a question, and Dan Campbell will go off on his little speeches. So yeah. A few other news items here. Fortunately, bad news. Couple players, key players, are out for the season already. John Kaminsky got hurt in training camp. He is out for the season with a torn MCL, and Emmanuel Mosley as well. After coming off his two torn ACLs, he also got hurt in training camp with a pec injury, and he is also out for the season. So, yeah, bad luck for those two, especially Emmanuel Mosley.
Yeah. You hate to hear about it. As soon as I heard that, I was like, man, this poor guy. Did he even play more than like one game in a Lions uniform before, you know, the injury bug really
Uh,
hit?
no, he played like 3 snaps,
Mm,
so that was it.
man. Yeah, so I mean it sucks to hear. I had really high expectations and hopes when we signed him initially 2 years ago. But I mean, I was really hoping this year, like, hey, I get it. Last year was a freak accident. He's got a year to condition. And now to come in and just have this happen, it's bad luck. I wish him the best. I don't know what his future is going to hold or what he's going to decide to do. I mean, that's tough on somebody to go 2 years without playing the game, and trying to get back into it. So I don't know if he's going to retire. I don't know what the plan is, but I wish him the best, and it sucks. I hate hearing that.
Yeah, I wonder with Emmanuel Mosley because last year the safety we got from the Eagles, he had a pec injury too, and he was only out for part of the season. So I don't know if like somehow Mosley can like heal up in time to maybe get out there for the season. But um, before this injury, it sounded like he had the starting job for the nickel position. So
Mm.
I don't know, maybe something can happen where it's not that bad, but who knows?
Who knows? As long as he's not going out there like Aaron Rodgers and promising he's going to come back and doesn't come back, like
Oh yeah.
if it's a surprise and he says, "Hey, by the way, I'm actually going to be cleared in like a week," like that'd be different. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
And also, I forgot to mention Michael Badgley's out for the season as well.
Yep,
I think he tore his Achilles, I think,
I
something like
believe
that.
so, or a hamstring or something. I want to
Yeah,
say it was a
hamstring.
hamstring.
Yep. So yeah, fortunately, he's out for the season as well.
So that's three season-ending injuries before we even hit the first preseason game, and we're going to talk about a couple more. What in the world has been happening? I just every time you text me, I made the joke. Every time you text us in the group chat for the world of football, it's always some doom and gloom Lions story, and I hate it. Stop it.
Well, when they get good news, I'll save it for the podcast.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yep. So moving on here, let's talk about the joint training camp with the Giants, UFC style. So that happened September 5th and 6th, Monday and Tuesday at the Giants facility.
Oh, you mean
Um,
August 5th and 6th?
yep. Darn
Okay.
it.
You said September. You wrote September. I know it's been a while since we've done an episode, but I mean,
Yeah, I am rusty.
you're just anxious for September to hit for the regular season. I get it. I
Yep.
get it.
Hey, just knocking off that rust before the regular season.
Hey, it's preseason for us too, right? I mean, that's how
Yep.
I'm going to view it. We got 3 episodes or 4 episodes of preseason podcasting before we get into the real thing. So you better shape up, otherwise you might not make the starting lineup.
Oh man, terrible. So with that, the only reason I call it the UFC style, um, first day they had 3 fights, and the second day they had 1 fight. Both teams got in trouble. NFL decided to fine both teams $200,000, which is, I guess, chump change to them, but that's a lot of money for everyone else.
When did that come down? I honestly hadn't seen that punishment yet. When did that come down?
It was all over Twitter or X like a couple days ago. All
Oh, really? I must have missed that. I didn't
reporters.
even. I've been waiting to see something about a fine or whatnot, and I hadn't seen anything yet. So, see, this is why I listen to my own podcast because I don't know.
Yeah. But other than that, one thing I want to talk about here is Jamison Williams during practices and everything. It looks like he's getting things together. He's finally clicking with Jared Goff, and a couple of those videos coming out with the Giants there. JMO smoked some of the defensive backs there. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Jamison Williams finally has his breakout year this year, the way he's looking in practice.
Look, I'll say it about JMO, and I'll say the same about any other player on the other 31 teams across the NFL. It's one thing to perform in practice. I see people posting, practice stats in like so and so threw 14 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in camp. I don't care. Let me know what they do when they get in an actual game. And the same will go for JMO. Has he looked awesome? I've loved everything I've seen of it. I'm sure we're not seeing everything, and I'm sure everything hasn't been perfect, but it is nice to see JMO kind of being the talk of the town right now in Lions training camp. But on the flip side, you got a team, you go up against anybody like the Giants, and like they have a guy who looked like he could be a stud, but goes into that first preseason game, we'll talk about it, and doesn't do diddly squat. And I get it, it's a preseason game, so even then I'm not going to judge too much. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with JMO. I think he's trending in the right direction. But I'm not going to be on one of those fans that's going to sit here and just be like, this is JMO's year. You see it? Look at it. All right there in practice. We've seen so many guys look like that in practice that we hype up, and then they look like crap during the regular season. Like, ever since the Lions won 4 straight preseason games and then went 0-16 in the regular season, I will no longer have any value for the preseason other than your health and getting just a basic understanding of fundamentals down. That's essentially where I'm at with that. It's fun to overhype a guy and get excited about a guy. Sure, what I'm not saying is that. I'm saying just temper some expectations a little bit and just acknowledge it's practice. It's practice. Yes, he went up against some competitors, but it's still practice. Calm down.
All right, thanks for the wet blanket there. Let's move on here. So let's talk about the preseason game. First one of the year. Lions 3, Giants 14. Biggest takeaway is I think we found our star quarterback here, Nate Sudfeld. What do you think of that, Adam? I think
I
Goff's in trouble. I think Sudfeld's going to take the job, and we're going to win the Super Bowl with Sudfeld.
Look, let's not mince words here. Look, final score of the game was the Lions 3, Giants 14. That's your final score. It's a preseason game. The score doesn't mean diddly squat to me. There were a few things I was looking for going into the game, and I don't know what you were looking for. I see your notes, but I'm going to ask you straight up in a second what some of the things you were looking for were. But going into this game, I was looking for, do they play the rookie corners? Do we see a lot of Jake Bates? Do they give Jake Bates, the new kicker, an opportunity to kick it a little more. And what's the backup quarterback situation going to look like? So Nate Sudfeld comes in. I was a little disappointed that he got the start because me, like everybody else, if the hot name after Jamison Williams in camp that I feel like has been Hendon Hooker. I've heard a lot of great stuff about Hendon Hooker, so I've been very excited about getting some Hendon Hooker action. And we had to wait till the second half to see him. But in the meantime, we had Nate Sudfeld. And I'll say this about Nate Sudfeld. Not great. It just, I don't know if it was bad backup offensive line play, if it was just the first preseason game, so you're knocking off a lot of rust in the actual game action, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But there was just seemed like a lack of awareness. The ball didn't come out as crisp as you would like. And I don't know. I was watching him shaking my head the whole time thinking, man, my confidence kept dropping, it seemed like, pretty much after every play with him. And we'll talk about Hooker in a second, but that's where I'm at with that. What were some of the stuff you were looking for, and how did you feel about Sudfeld?
So yeah, I was not happy with Sudfeld. I'll give him some passes, I guess. First of all, it was raining buckets out there, so that wasn't great. Um, but I guess that's the only one. But he had time to throw a few times, and he didn't. There was a play where even Golden Tate was a broadcaster there saying, "Man, you should have thrown it away. What are you doing?" But you ran out of bounds behind the line of gain or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. Hopefully Hooker can do better in the next game because I don't want to see Sudfeld quarterback number 2.
Hey, look, I'll also give this for Sudfeld. I had a thought right there, and I think I just lost it. But oh no, it's his yeah, that just not getting to the sticks on time. It felt like he held onto the ball too long.
Yeah.
And even when I felt like the offensive line gave him the time, like I was like, okay, they gave him some time. He just held on to it too long. He was like going through like every progression, every read. It felt like 3 times. I was like, dude, just make a decision. If you don't see nobody, just get rid of it or try to make a play with your legs. And he didn't do it. So
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on here. Speaking of Hooker, Hendon Hooker, he did play finally after halftime. He went out there. He played the third quarter. Biggest thing for me was he did a lot of running, but I don't know if it's his first game finally. Kind of, I don't know if he was nervous, but he kind of took his eyes off the downfield, decided to run a lot, and I don't know if that's going to get better for him as these preseason game goes on. Hopefully it does, but he did end up getting a few nasty hits, helmet to helmet contact, and he had to leave the game after the third quarter. So Sudfeld had to take over, unfortunately. But yeah, but what I did see with him actually running, he needs to learn how to slide. He cannot manhandle safeties like that because if he keeps up with that, he's going to get hurt.
that was a heck of a
But
highlight, though. Trucking that
yeah,
dude, that was awesome. That was one of the moments I was like, all right, Hendon Hooker, I like you quite a bit. I think from the moment he stepped on the field, it felt different. I'm not saying every
yeah,
play was perfect. I'm not saying it felt perfect. You know, not everything was perfect, but I liked the way he was poised. You know, for the most part, I get it. First action. It's a preseason game. It's raining, so there's a lot of factors there that we can forgive. But what I think you can actually assess there is that I felt like he made good reads, and when he needed to, he had that right instinct to make the run. He just, like you said, he just has to know when to slide or get down or get out of bounds. He just got to get that. Yeah, he can't truck every dude. He can't truck every dude he comes across. So I would like to see that change. It does stink that he went out with the injury. Hopefully it's nothing big. He walked off in his own power, so I'm not totally worried about it. I hope that we see him start next week with maybe some more of the first string guys, if not, most of the second string guys, and just get him some more reps. Because I liked what I saw. He had a different just aura about him. I don't know if that's just because the best player on your team is always the backup quarterback. I don't know if it was just because we hadn't seen him and it was just exciting just to have him out there finally for a change after essentially a redshirt season, as they kept referring to his last season with an injury. So
Yeah.
I am totally comfortable with Hendon Hooker right now. Yes, development's still going to come, but just from initial, just like, all right, I like what I see. I'm not going to overhype. I'm not going to say he's the quarterback of the future. I'm just saying I liked what I saw in terms of a guy that could develop into performing and doing the job adequately or above adequately.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he does play next game. I don't know if he got too rattled up during that hit, concussion protocol. I don't know how long that takes. If he's feeling good or whatever. But yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable if Hooker is the quarterback number 2 in case Goff goes down for maybe a couple games. Um, but yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable with Hooker than Sudfeld.
Same.
So let's move on here. Another player I want to highlight is Sione Vaki. He went in there, I think, third quarter as well. He was running back. He had a few runs that did a lot better than Craig Reynolds did and Jamar Jefferson. So if he puts out more tape like that next 2 preseason games, I can definitely see him being the running back number 4 for the team.
Yeah, that's deep. Like holding 4 running backs, that's tough. You already got 2 studs
Yeah,
in Montgomery and Gibbs. That third spot, could it be Reynolds' job to lose? If Reynolds doesn't, I mean, Reynolds has been with Detroit for a few years now, but that's not a secure job. If and how do you say his last name? Vakai,
Vaki.
Vaki. If he keeps playing like this and and I also want to throw out there he's playing against second, third string guys that may or may not make their team, but
Yeah,
we'll see if you can at least have that awareness. And he looked decent, I'll admit, but he wasn't one of the guys like nobody else really jumped off the screen to me last night other than Hendon Hooker and maybe one other guy we'll talk about. I think he's not even in your notes, but there's one other guy I want to talk about. But I mean, we'll see what happens. That running back 3 position is definitely something I could see being up for grabs.
yep. And then moving on here, Ennis Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold, and Amik Robertson did play yesterday. Ennis Rakestraw played the most, but all 3 of those guys went out the first quarter together. Amik Robertson playing nickel, Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold are playing cornerbacks. And that first quarter they had was Andrew Locke, I think.
Drew Lock.
Drew Locke, okay. So Drew Lock was a quarterback. He couldn't really throw, and I don't know if that was the reason because all 3 of those guys were just shutting down the receivers, safety help, and all that stuff. But sounds like we got some good backups. Terrion Arnold, also, I think is going to be a good defensive back number 2. So yeah, hopefully, I know this is a first preseason game, but if they can keep it up, I think we shouldn't have any worries anymore.
We'll see. I mean, they did shut down Malik Neighbors. I know Malik Neighbors only had 12 snaps last night. Didn't make a
Yeah.
catch. I've seen some footage from like the sidelines of Malik Neighbors just not being able to escape game speed pressure, and that might change. I'm not saying Malik Neighbors is a bust or anything, but just in his first preseason game, yeah, it was also wet. I don't know how often or how long we can use that as an excuse for a guy not being able to get open. You got to do what you got to do regardless of the conditions. But Tyrion Arnold, I believe, was the back on him, and he gave him nothing. Anytime it seemed like, even if there was a play, and there was one where Malik was wide open that people were complaining about, but I thought the Lions defensive backs covered it great. They knew where the weapon was, and they covered it great. And the quarterback, yes, it wasn't their starter, but it was a quarterback that's been around in the NFL for a while and didn't go in that direction. I don't know whether that was the read or if that was he didn't like the over the top coverage, but he didn't go that way. And Malik Neighbors didn't get the ball. And I don't know if that says more about the individuals or about maybe the scheme they played. And granted, they're probably not playing an overly complicated scheme in the preseason. They're just trying to get their guys acclimated to game speed. But I don't know. I've liked what I saw from the defensive backs last night. My bigger issues came with the defensive line and some of the tackling, and that comes with a problem with a lot of these second, third string guys because if they can't do that, that's why they don't make NFL rosters. So
Yep. We'll see the next game. I don't know. I'd be interested to see, since it's the second preseason game, if the Chiefs will actually play some of their starters or not. I highly doubt it, but
I doubt it too.
I'd like to see Terrion Arnold before the season starts, maybe go up against like a star wide receiver one and see what he actually does. So
If I had to make a guess, I would assume preseason game 2. Nobody's going to play their starters at all. So no Goff, no Mahomes next week, and we'll talk about that game in a second. But I don't think we'll see any realistic like what we could possibly see in week 1 action, regular season action until that third preseason game. If at all
yeah,
that. I mean, it depends on the team's strategy. I don't know what Campbell's thinking. If he thinks Goff will be fine to sit out another week and let Hooker and Sudfeld play with me with some of the ones. So we'll see. They got a plan.
yeah,
Trust
yep,
Brad Holmes. Trust Dan Campbell. That's where I'm at.
yep. So along with yesterday's game, we had two players get hurt. Well, four players really. Two players actually had a season-ending injury. One of them, Connor Galvin. He's a tackle, backup tackle. He tore his MCL, so he's out for the season. And David Bada, I think he's a defensive lineman. He had Achilles injuries, so sounds like both those guys are out for the season. It's unfortunate for them. Hopefully they get better. They'll be back for next season, whatever which team picks them up. But yeah, it sucks for those guys.
Yeah.
And then real quick, I want to talk about the other two guys, Hendon Hooker. As we talked earlier, he left for a concussion protocol, as well as Antonio Green. He left as well with a concussion protocol.
Hey, better safe than sorry. Just make sure they're good.
Yep. So yeah, let's move on to stats here real quick. Nate Sudfeld, 3 quarters. He played. He was 13 of 24 for 96 yards and one interception. Hendon Hooker was not or 5 of 9 with 36 yards and 4 carries for 34 yards. Sione Vaki was the star running back last night with 4 carries and 29 yards. I know that number is pretty low, but he averaged over 7 yards a carry. And then the other guy we didn't really talk about was Isaiah Williams. He's a wide receiver trying to get on the team. He had 4 receptions, 35 yards. I know a few um, interviews with the coach kept he's throwing out Isaiah Williams' name a lot. So yeah, that sounds like that fourth wide receiver spot's really up for grabs for anyone on this team.
Yeah. Can I throw out 2 other guys that aren't on your stats list that we didn't even talk about that I think maybe we should be talking about? The other 2 guys that jumped off the screen to me last night.
Yeah.
All right, the first is Jack Fox. No competition for that dude. That dude is
Oh
still
yeah.
punting bombs. Last night he had 7 punts. His longest was 62 yards. 62-yard punt. It was unbelievable. So he had like an average of 49 and a half yards per punt. Awesome. He did awesome last night. Every time he kicks it, I love it. Love Jack Fox. Second being, how about Jake Bates? 1 for 1. He kicked a 53-yarder in some inclement weather. That was impressive. But then he followed it up with the new kickoff rules, which we didn't even touch on today. The new kickoff rules, he was like just short of that landing zone that the ball needs to get into. So that's just something that people that he needs to work on. And I hope people realize he wasn't an XFL kicker, so it's not like he's done this kick before either. He was in the UFL, not the XFL, even though they merged, but he wasn't playing with those kicking rules, I believe. So, yeah. So before people criticize him for that, that's why. What do you think about the kickoff rule, by the way?
It was different. I can see where if you're a good kick returner and and you're line there can set things up. I expect a lot of returns for touchdowns this season.
See, I don't. If I don't like in the
You
XFL
know?
when they had it, I only remember like one or two maybe ever happening with this kickoff rule for the XFL. So I don't know. Maybe with the talent level of some of these kick returners in the NFL, maybe that'll be different. Last night for sure, and maybe it was because of the weather. Don't know, but there were a couple times where I was like, "Ah, crap!" Like that guy was like one tackle away from just taking it to the house because like
Yeah.
that whole mess of body, it's chaotic right there. So we'll have to wait and see how it all kind of shakes out.
Yeah, the biggest thing is also like you don't see like the players full speed running into the person with the ball or defenders or anything. So I think that's a big plus as well. Limit the injuries is there.
I mean, that's the whole point of this. I'm excited to see what happens, and there'll be a lot of little, you know, uh, rules that I'm sure we're still all going to be learning along the way. Like I forgot about, like if you don't get it that far, the NFL's got slightly different rules than what the XFL had when they were doing this kickoff rule, which is fine. So we'll see what happens. Um, we're all learning it together.
Oh yeah, I think even after the preseason, the first couple of weeks are they're probably still going to try and get used to it.
And what do you think? Something else I want to bring up real quick before we move on. They had the chips in the balls, so there was
Oh
one.
yeah,
So they were using that to measure instead of bringing out the chain gang. How do we feel about that?
I think it's good they're doing it in the preseason right now because it's going to take a little bit.
That was a long time just to get that. I was like, I see the ball. I see where you spot it. I can tell you right now it didn't make the line to gain, but they still went through the whole process. And I get it. It's preseason. So, yes, go through the process and get everything right. But man, that took forever. They got it right, but it took forever.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, they just wanted to try it out last night to see how it was, but
Well, I mean,
hopefully,
all preseason, I think they have to do it. And then that's when they'll decide if they actually use it for the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. That's the plan. Like we'll see how the preseason goes, and then they'll decide if they're actually going to continue with it during the regular season or not. So the Lions, I mean, they've only had 3 games so far in the NFL preseason week 1, and we'll see if this continues to be a problem or if it's something they get corrected and can move forward with.
yeah. So hopefully it does work out, but they just need to hire the head official from the UFL that sits in the
Blandino,
yeah, Dean Blandino got his feet up in the chair
I
officiating.
the NFL needs to just go to that type of system anyway. They need to just go to a
Yeah,
command center to make these like to do this because all these other leagues have so much better referee protocol or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Frank agrees with me that uh, the Canadian Football League does a great job with it with their command center. The UFL I thought did a great job with their officiating this past year. So the NFL needs to get their crap together and do something similar. They they stole the kickoff from the XFL. Why don't just steal your own command center from the UFL? Come on.
yeah. I think in a couple years they're gonna have to have the command center and the NFL or referee open mics when they discuss the penalties because it's too much money on the especially with people now starting to gamble a lot on the games.
Just now
Like
starting
there's
to gamble. They've been gambling forever on the.
well, it's getting to a
It's
point to
getting
where
big.
they think that the officiating or throwing the games
Uh,
or the NFL are cooking the books or whatever. So yeah, let's move on here real quick. Preseason game number 2. It is on Saturday, August 17th at the Chiefs Stadium. It is 4 o'clock p.m. Not a.m. I don't know why I said that. But it will be on Fox.
yeah.
But before that, the Lions have 3 more training camps during that week, upcoming week here. 2 of them will be for everyone, and 1 of them will be for the Lions loyal members. So if you have tickets, hopefully, it looks like the weather's going to be pretty good for you guys. Have fun, take pictures, maybe tell us how it is.
What do you
But
expect
yeah,
from the preseason game too? Is there anything you want out of this game?
I would like to see hopefully Hendon Hooker is able to play, and I want to see him out there at least for. I'd love to see him for all 4 quarters. Just have him out there. He needs to
Um,
practice. He needs to play.
I don't see that happen. I'm sure Sudfeld will still get some time, but I would like to see Hooker make the start. I would like to see Hooker with at least a handful of guys that are ones. Like obviously probably not going to throw out Amon-Ra or Laporta or Goff or Gibbs
Yeah,
or Montgomery, but maybe throw a couple offensive linemen out there just to get a couple reps. Like that would be nice to see. What he can do with an actual first string pocket or close to it. I mean, that's my big thing. I'd like to see. One thing I was going to ask you, like, I would like to see some of these fourth down conversions Dan Campbell's doing. I get it; that's a good rep for the offense, like because it doesn't matter. The final score don't matter. You want to put your guys in positions to learn in certain situations. I would like to see less going for it on fourth down. I'd like to see Jake Bates get some more kicks.
yeah,
He needs it. He needs it from 20 yards to 50 yards to maybe even giving him a 60-yarder. He needs the practice. It's outdoors, so it's kind of his bugaboo when he was in the UFL. He couldn't really do outdoors great. So I would just like to see that. I'd like to see less fourth down, conversions, and more. Just let him kick it wherever he's at. Let him kick it. Let him get a feel for real game time kicking situations because that's invaluable to a kicker. So
yeah. Hopefully the weather is a lot better this time. I don't know if the Hendon Hooker and Sudfeld were just afraid to throw it with all that rain coming down or not. So hopefully it'll give time for Hooker to actually throw the ball, not be scared of the rain, and have. I wouldn't have Amon-Ra out there. I would like to see Jamison Williams out there for maybe a play or two, just to see how he does, and then yeah, we'll see. And yeah, I want to see a little bit more of Sione Vaki as well.
okay, all right. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me. So yeah,
All
let's
right.
just go ahead and close it out here.
All right, you got it, boss. We hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode and come back for more. Be sure to visit the World of Football's website, www.theworldoffootball.com, for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. If you want to get in touch with us, send us an email to info@theworldoffootball.com, or you can connect with us by liking us on Facebook, the X account, or on Instagram. All those are at TWOF Kalamazoo to find us there. Links will be down in the description below, by the way. Be sure to check out our flagship show on our YouTube/podcast network, This Week in the World of Football, which drops a new episode every Tuesday, and you can find that in your podcast feed as well as on the YouTube channel, as I mentioned. Again, links down in the description below. And I want to throw out there, we are still doing our weekly NFL picks when the regular season kicks off. Kyle probably will jump in at some point during the season. He'll give us his picks. He might not be on the episode, but we'll get his picks every week. But yeah, be sure to jump over there and check that out when that starts hitting the YouTubes on September 4th. I think is the first one we'll be dropping for week 1. So be on the lookout for more on that. Drop your picks in. We'll probably do it on the community tab, or you can just do it right there in the video. And yeah, if you played last year, you know the rules, you know how it goes. If you haven't, just be on the lookout for more info.
All right, that'll be it for us this week. Be on the lookout for next week's episode. It should be up probably Sunday for next week's episode. Today, I don't know what your schedule is, but should be up here shortly.
Oh yeah, it'll be up. I mean, we're recording this on a Friday afternoon. It'll be up by Friday night.
All
So,
right, sounds good. All
so
right,
happy Friday night, everybody.
yeah, grab a bag of popcorn and a soda and enjoy the video. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks.